Hi guys, so welcome to my YouTube channel. In our today's video, I'll be showing you how I went about creating this dashboard on Tableau. So this is a surgical ward management dashboard that analyzes the number of surgeries that is being carried out in an hospital, the bed occupancy rate, the average length of stay from when a procedure was done till while a patient was discharged, and the surgery complication rates, the surgeries that were done, how was were there complication at the end of the surgery, and just to calculate the rate of these complications. And we'll be looking at other important information, comparing surgeries, discharge, readmissions, and etc. So this is a three-page dashboard. The first page is an overview of the management of the surgery ward, right? And this dashboard, we are analyzing data sets from the year of just 1 year, that's 2024. Okay, so we can get the monthly analysis. We can pick a month and analyze the values. We can decide to pick a week. We have 52 weeks in a year, right? So you can decide to pick any week in the year and analyze, get a view of your data set. And also we can also decide to pick any day from the year. Okay, so if I click on this, we're going to be getting a calendar. So you could see we can pick any day of the year. We can go to August, just pick any day and get the analysis for that day. So let's take this back to our monthly analysis to get our monthly view of our data. Then the next thing, like I said earlier, this is a three-page dashboard. So this is what the first page does. So let's go to the second page, which is our patient analytical page. So for the patient analytical page, yeah, we're going to be looking at the analysis of patients, these patients that are coming in for surgeries, who were the doctors that attended to them, who were the nurses in charge, what procedures were done, were the surgery done, was it later cancelled, was it rescheduled, does this patient have any allergy? Just a page that gives us thorough information regarding the patient that is to undergo surgery, right? So that's why we call this our surgery list. So for the month, how many surgeries were done in that month? We want to see the patients that were booked for surgery, the dates, the procedure that was to be done, the surgeon that was to attend to that patient, and the schedule. Was it done? Was it later cancelled? Was it rescheduled? Just so that. And the unique thing about this page is that you can click on a patient ID and you'll be getting more information regarding that patient. So you can see we have this other section here that tells us about the patient, the medical procedure, the duration for the surgery, the dates for surgery, doctor in charge, the nurse in charge, schedule of the surgery, if it was done or not, if there was any past medical history, any allergy or complication regarding that patient. So I can go ahead and just click on a patient's ID and it's going to update this page here. So if I go ahead and click, let's click on 11, and this page will be updated. Okay, so this is just simply how this page works. And the same thing, you can also go ahead and pick any month, just of your choice, and the entire dashboard is going to change. If I go ahead now and pick this, then it gets populated. Okay, so the last page is the doctor's page. So in each hospital we have something like a roster that tells you the doctor in charge, or if a doctor is going to be working for that day or not, right? So this is just like a roster page, and aside from being a roster page, it gives us more information. Also, it tells us how many surgeries that were done by that doctor, from those surgeries done, what are those different type of procedures that were carried out by the surgeons, and also the percent of complications from those surgeries, right? So not all surgeries go without complications, right? There are some surgeries that they might be bleeding, the patient might bleed, the patient might come down with infection, they might just be different things, right? So we want to see what is the rate of complication from each surgeries, right? So that's what this page does. So you could see this place here, we have the different surgeons, their names, and the amount of surgeries that were carried out by these surgeons, right? Then in this section here, this little section, we have information regarding just the doctor's profile picture, the name, the surgeries done, and a breakdown of those surgeries that were carried out. For example, Dr. Brian had 14 surgeries, and we had, among those 14 surgeries, we had 3 as hip replacement, 3 as CBGs, 3 appendectomy, 2 tonsillectomy surgery, 2 C-sections, 1 gallbladder removal, and that. Okay, so we can also see the percent of complication from each surgery. You could see among all the surgeries she did 40 surgeries, and 7 of those patients came down with infection. 3 had no complication, 2 came down with bleeding, 2 there were respiratory distress, 9 we had cardiac arrest, and 9 had clot formation. Okay, so you could see like just a brief information regarding the surgeries that were done by this patient, and it's just easy. For example, if I click on Dr. Miller, the whole information here is going to be showing us information regarding Dr. Miller. If I go ahead and click on Dr. Johnson, you see everything populates and shows us information regarding Dr. Johnson, and you can also use these filters as well. So this is just a brief walkthrough on how this dashboard works. So stay with me, I'll be teaching you, or I'll be walking you through the process I was able to create this dashboard. So if you want to create this dashboard with me, I'll also be dropping the data set, link to the data set, so that you can download that. Just click on go to the description section, you can download that and walk along with me. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, and share to your friends or loved ones you know will be interested in learning how to create dashboards such as this. Okay, so without wasting time, let's dive right in. So if you take a look at this dashboard, you will see that we have 3 filters: the month, week, and daily filter. So if I click on this, I'll be able to filter the dashboard for any month, and if I go to week, you see we're able to filter the dashboard for any week. Okay, same thing for the day filter. So that's going to be the first thing we will be creating. We're creating a parameter that would serve as our month, week, and day filter. Okay, so let me just go ahead and close this. Okay, so we'll call this our month selector. Can give this any name, and this is going to be an integer. It's going to be a list, and the list is going to be taking values from 1 to 12. Remember, we have 12 months in a year, right? Okay, now that we're done with that, we can change the way these various months will be displayed. So instead of 1, we want this to be January, February, March, April, May, June, July, Okay, so this is it, and this is just what we'll be doing to create our month filter parameter. So we can just go ahead and you know click on this, and if I go ahead and show this parameter, so you see this is what we have: months, and click on match and filters. And for now it's not doing anything special, right? So let's just go ahead and create our other two parameters. So this is going to be our week selector, and for this we are going to be using integers as well, but we'll be using range. So we want to minimum value is 1. So in a week we have 52 weeks, right? So maximum value is going to be 52, and that is for that. So we can decide that we want our current value to be at, let's say, week 15. So let's put it as that. So I can go ahead and show this, so you could see this is it. So we can switch any of our icon. Then the last parameter I'll be creating is for the day. So for this day selector, for us to be able to pick a particular day, we'll be using dates this time around, and we'll be allowing all values. Okay, so I can go ahead and click on this, and if I show this as well, so you can see we can pick on any dates. So what I want to do now is, since we're just looking at values within 2024, our data set is for the year 2024, so I'll just go ahead and change this to 2024. Okay, correct. So we're in October 2024. So another thing I want to do is I need another parameter that helps in controlling these three parameters I have created. So I want to call this a view mode, and it's going to be taking strings, it's going to be list, and it's going to be taking three values, which are the month selector, the week selector, and the day selector. Okay, so if you take notes, we have the spelling is a bit off. This is supposed to be small letter, but what I'll do, I'll be going back to to edit this. So let me just leave it as this and save this. Then I can go back here and edit this. So let's edit, and we want this to be capital letter S. So take note, they have to be uniform, like what you are using for the view mode, and the names of this parameter has to be exactly the same thing, or it's not going to work at the view mode aspects. So if I show this now, this is what we have. We have month, week, and day. Okay, so another thing we can go ahead and do, I can edit this, and instead of month selector, this can be displayed as month, week, day. So this is what we have now: month, week, and day. So now, since we've created those parameters we want, now we can go ahead and start writing our calculated feed. So one thing I always love doing is arranging my dashboard using grouping it by folder. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do that. So the first sheet we want to look at is to create this, right? The numbers of surgeries, and so I'll just do that. So to do that, let me go ahead to want to return the total numbers of surgery, or the total numbers, the count of patients named for each month. Okay, so that will be our total numbers of surgery. So let me create a calculated feed. So now we're going to be writing another if statement. This if statement is going to be saying if so we're saying if the date of surgery is equals to the month selector then we want to return the patient's name. Okay, and we can go ahead and hint this here. Okay, so now what we'll be doing, I can just go ahead and copy this and let's paste this here. So this is going to be an else if statement. Else if our view mode is equals to week selector, then we want this to be week, and this should be our week selector. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do same thing. Say if our view mode is equals to day, then we want this to be the dates, and we want our day selector. Okay, so now what we want to do, we just wrap all these under our count, because we just want to count the number of patients that will be undergoing surgery for that month, that day, or that week. Okay, so that's that. So we can go ahead and say, okay, I want to create a folder with this. So let's call this surgery. Okay, so if I go ahead and drop this here, now we can see we have 457 surgeries in the month of January. If we move to April, we have 413 surgeries. The month of June, we have 402 patients who undergo surgeries. So if we want to see pick a particular week, we would have to change it to week. So let's change this to week, and you can see we have 26. We have 106 surgeries in week 26, and if we want to see how many surgeries we have for a particular day, let's say we want to see, look at this day, that we can say we have 15 patients who underwent surgery in this particular day. Okay, so that's it. So we want to do a month to previous month comparison. So to get the previous month, I'll go ahead, duplicate these and edit it. Now I'll call this our previous month surgery. Now we want to just say -1. So because if we subtract one from June, it's going to give us May, right? So subtracting 1 is just going to give us the previous month, previous week, or previous day value. Okay, so if I go ahead and put this on test also, now you could see we have 387 for the previous month. So if I take this to May, you see it's going to, you can see this, it was 387. So another thing we want to do is to get the percentage difference. Okay, So to get the percentage difference is the current month minus the previous month divided by the previous month. So let's go ahead and create that calculated feed, and let's call that the surgery percent difference. So we're technically going to subtract the current month surgery from the previous month surgery, okay? And we're going to divide that by the previous month's surgery, okay? So one thing I love doing is to I want a situation where if it is lesser than 0, we are going to be coloring that as red. If it is greater than 0, green. That as we have an increase or we had a decrease, right? So to do that, an easy way I go about doing that is to use an if statement and say if this is greater than 0, then we want you to return this and end the statement here. So this is going to be for a positive sign, okay? Now just go ahead and duplicate this. This is going to be for the negative sign. So now we'll say if it is lesser than 0. Okay, so we have all we need right now, so can go ahead and throw this here. Okay, okay, so we can now go ahead and edit this sheet. This is going to be our surgery, number of surgeries we had for the month. I'll go ahead and count of surgery is going to be under detail, and I want to format this workbook. So I'll be using area. Okay. I want to turn off all the lines as well, grid lines, zero lines, trend lines. I want all these to be off. I just realized, okay, as this takes off as well, okay. So that's for that. So now let's go ahead and edit this. So let's see what we're trying to create. We're trying to create this, right? Remember, so we have 447. This is the current month, previous month, and all that. So this is going to be taking our previous month value, which is this. We are going to make this board. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is for this. Let's edit our test right now. So for negative, this is going to be red. Positive is going to be green. Now another thing we can do is to format this so that it becomes a percentage. Okay. So now another thing you have to do is I'll be showing you. So for example, we have this previous month and month of month change, and you see if I change this to week, let's wait for this to load. You see we have previous week and week of week change, right? So in order for us to be able to do that, I'll also be creating a calculated feed. So let's create this calculated feed. We'll call the first one, let's just call this value 1, and I'll go ahead and paste this here, and I'll just explain to you what this does. So I'll go ahead and edit this. So view mode, so we are saying if our view mode is equals to, if we're looking at month selected, then it should be PM, right? So that's what we are technically just saying. If view mode is equals to week selected, then we should have PW. So if our view mode is equals to day selected, then we should have PD. So previous month, previous week, previous day. Okay, so that's for that. I want to put this in another folder, so I'll create a folder. I will just call this our extras. So this is going to be containing some side values, not actually the major values. I'll go ahead and duplicate this. So this is going to be for our value 2. I edit this to value 2, and I'll call this month of month change. Okay, this is going to be week of week change and day of day change. Okay, so this is it. So now I can just go ahead and drag value 1 and value 2 as well. These are going to be test. Okay, okay, so this is supposed to be month selector, so let's go ahead and correct that. Okay, same thing for this as well. Okay, so we can see entire view. Let's edit this. So and top. Okay, so now I want to go back to the test, and I want to edit this a bit. I want it to have a space between. This is going to be, so let's give this a bit of another shade of color. This is also going to be using that shade of color as well. Make this, we apply this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will unbolt these, and yeah, let me just leave it as that. Okay, so this is it. So this is the number of surgeries we have currently for male. This is the number of surgery we have for April, and this is the percentage change value. So the next thing we want to do is to create a so the next thing we're going to be doing is to create these charts, right? So that will be telling us the number of values we have for each day for the week if it's a month, for each day for the month, and so forth. So let's go ahead and create that. So let's just call these our surgery bars. And to do that, we would have to create two date values. So the first one is going to be showing us, is going to be returning to us those days, if it is months, week, or days. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create a calculated feed, and I'll call this dates. Now we'll just go ahead and paste this here and edit it. Okay, so we are using view mode. So we are saying if our view mode is equals to our month selector value, then this is what we want to return. The date of surgery, we want to get the day of that date of surgery, and it should be saved as a string. Okay, so if is week selected, then we want to get the name. So we want to see if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we want to return the name. And if it is day selector, we just want to return that dates value as a string. Okay, so this is it. So let me just go ahead and okay this. Now I can now go ahead and drag dates here, and we'll be dragging our surgery here as well. So you could see this is for the month. So let me just go ahead and show our view mode. So we are currently on months. Now if I change this to week, you see we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and so forth. And if I go ahead and change this to day, we have just for that particular day. Okay, so that you can, that's how I went ahead to do this. So the next thing I'll be showing you is the tooltip. So currently for the tooltip, we just have the date value. Okay, so if we are on week, it shows us Wednesday. If we are on day, it shows us the day. Now the next thing I want us to do is to add the month, the name of the month, to our tooltip. So you can see if I scroll through this, we'll see date as 10, but it does not show us which month we are currently at. Okay, so to do that, I would create another calculated feed, and I will call that our month name value. So let me just go ahead and do that. I'll say, let me just give this a month's name, and I'll go ahead and paste this calculation here and edit it. So this is supposed to be our view mode, and we want our view mode to be equals to our month selector parameter, right? So month selector. So what we are saying is we want to take our month selector and just get the name of that month. So these are month selector. So this is our month selector parameter. Remember, our month selector parameter is, it's showing us okay, our month selector parameter shows us values like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we want to give that a name, want to get the name from that particular parameter. So if you just go ahead and write this code, and if we paste that, so we have our month name. I'll be adding this to our extra folder. So now I'll just go ahead and add that to tooltip. Okay, so if I scroll through this, now you can see we have May, and if I go ahead and show us our month selector parameter, show parameter, you can see we are in the month of May. If I change this to June, and you can see now we are currently have seen June. So let me just go ahead and edit this tooltip. So copy this, and so this is going to 1st of June and so forth. So we will go ahead and edit this also. So they're just going to show surgeries booked. Okay, so now we can see for 16th of June we had 8 surgeries and so forth. So you can go ahead and remove this, and this is now okay. So if we check our week, we can see on Tuesday 18 surgeries and so forth. If we check day, we have number of surgery for this day. So I can go ahead and expand this, and that is that. So the next thing we'll be looking at is, let's take a look at our dashboard. So the next thing we'll be looking at, we'll be creating, is the bed occupancy rate. So let's go ahead and do that. So BOR. So I've created a video that talked about bed occupancy rate. So if you want to know, if you want to go deep into what BOR is all about, you want to learn more about it, then you can go ahead and check the video that will be popping on your screen right now regarding bed occupancy rate. So the first thing we want to do first of all is, if we take a look at our data sets, let's view our data, we would see that we have surgery rooms, and that's what we'll be using. Okay, so we'll be using our surgery room in place of physical beds. So you will see we have this column of data that looks at surgery room number. We have room 4, room 9, room 15. We have from room 1 to room 20. So we are going to be assuming that we have 20 beds. Each room has a bed, right? So we are going to be assuming that we have 20 beds in this surgery department, and we are going to be analyzing how often a patient was made use of these surgical beds that are available in this hospital. So let's go ahead and close that. What I want to do first of all is just to go ahead and duplicate this, then I will create another folder for this. So I'll go ahead and remove this from folder, and I'll create another folder for this. So create a folder, I'll call this BOR. Okay, so now I can now go ahead and edit this. So what we want to do is, we want to just return the room numbers, or we want to return the room numbers for each month, week, or day. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're using same syntax, but this time around we just want to return room numbers. So surgery room number, okay. So I can just go ahead and, okay, let me go ahead and edit the name also. So this is just bed occupancy, not actually the bed occupancy rate, right? So this is just a count of the surgery room numbers. So to get the bed occupancy rate, calculating bed occupancy rate actually has a formula. Is the total number of bed occupied in the hospital divided by the total number of beds that is available in that hospital times the number of days. So let me just go ahead and create another calculated feed. We'll call this our CTBOR, and this is it. So let's say, for example, we have 20 beds in the hospital. We have 20 fixed bed in the hospital, and for the period of 30 days, which is a month, these 20 beds were occupied for, let's say, 40 times. Okay, so this is how you calculate your BOR. The number of times the beds in the hospital were occupied divided by the total number of beds you have in that hospital times the number of days. So let's go ahead and calculate our BOR in this instance. So I'll just go ahead and copy and paste this. So you can see that our CTBO is already the calculation which we got from the counting of the number of rooms which we are using to replace our beds in this situation, how many times those rooms were used in either a month, a week, or in a day. And we are going to be using the count distinct to count the distinct or the total number of rooms we have. So count distance is going to return how many surgery room we have, and we are now going to divide it by calculation. So we want to get so for example, if we are using the month selector, there it means that we want to divide by 30. When we are using the week selector, we want to divide by 7, and when we are using the day selector, we want to divide by 1 to be able to get the accurate number. Okay, so that's what we are going to be doing. So for view mode, we'll be using our month selector, and then we'll be dividing by 30. So we are saying if view mode is equals to month selector, then 30. If the view mode is equals to the week selector, then divide by 7. And if the view mode is equals to day selector, they divide by 1. Okay, so and to get the percentage, we will have to multiply by 100. Okay, so that's how we get our bed occupancy rate value. So if I go ahead and drag this on test, so we can see we have 75% bed occupancy. And if I decide to click on show our view mode parameter, so this for day, for month we have a 67% bed occupancy rate. For week we have 75.7% bed occupancy rate. Okay, so now to get the previous bed occupancy rate, the previous month, the previous week, the previous day, all we have to do now is to duplicate these and edit. So we're saying we are looking for our previous BO. So now we just have to subtract 1 from this, subtract 1, subtract 1. Okay, it gives us the previous value. And now to get the previous bed occupancy rate, we can go ahead and duplicate this also and edit this. So we are getting our previous BOR. Remove this, and so instead of CTBO this time around, we are going to be using the previous BO. Okay, so with this we'll be getting the previous bed occupancy rate value. So we can now click on this, and if we drag this to test, now we can see our previous value. So now let's go ahead and just edit this. Let's format this rather, and no, custom value, so let's say 75.7%. Since we've already put this in percentages, I'll just have to add a surface percentage to it. Okay, so now the same thing for this, format this. Okay, and that is for that. So now if I want to get the difference in values, all I have to do now is to go ahead and create a calculated feed, and we can call this our BOR percent diff. Okay, so remember I said to get the percentage, we'll be saying if the city BOR minus the previous BOR divided by the previous BOR. Okay, is greater than, sorry, is greater than 0, then we want you to return this and end. So this is going to be for our positive. Okay, so now we can just go ahead and duplicate this to get the negative. So this is going to be negative, and we'll say if it is lesser than 0. Okay, so that's for that. So we can now go ahead and drag all our values to test. Okay, so let's make this test, and also we'll be dragging these values to value 1 and value 2. Okay, so now the next thing we can do is to edit, and just go ahead and edit these. So let's go ahead and edit these. So for the city BORL, remember, first of all we have to put that in detail. Okay, so now we can say okay, can make this bold. Okay, then let's just go to our test and do the other edit. Plus will be green, and this will be red. Okay, so we can also go ahead and edit these, or sorry, format these, so that we have percentages and okay, okay. So now if we take this to months, you could see the change. We take this to day, you can see the changes, and that's what we want to see, right? So the next thing we'll be doing is to create our bars as well, right? So we want to create our bars. Let me make this yes, so I can just go ahead and duplicate this, change this to BOR bars. Okay, now we'll be changing this to BOR. Okay, so we can see our values. So let me just go ahead and edit this. Sorry, format this. I don't know why I keep on saying edit. Okay, these are already in percentage. So we have, okay, so now we can go ahead and change the tooltip and put this as VOR. Okay, so now we can go ahead and remove this, and this is what we have. Correct. So we are done with that. The next thing we want to do, the next we have the average length of stay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create those bars. So I can hide these, and we have columns that determine how how long a patient stayed in the hospital after the surgery was concluded. So, and it is called time spent in the ward, and this is actually in hours. So our average length of stay is going to be calculated in days. So to get this in days, since we already have this in hours, we have to, divide by 24, right? 24 hours make 1 day. So let's go ahead and create a calculated field and call this um time spent in days. And all what we are doing is just to divide our hours by 24, and we'll be getting the values in days. So this is our time spent in days. Now I will go ahead and create a folder for these, and I'll be adding it to our average ALOS, as average length of stay. And what I want to do next is to make it easy, just go ahead. Okay, this is what we are using. Sorry, this is what we are using. So just go ahead and duplicate these, and we're just going to be adding this to the ALOS folder. And now we can go ahead and edit this. So we're going to be calling this the city ALOS. Okay, now what we want it to return is our time spent in days. Okay, so now technically we are not going to be counting the time spent in days, right? Or we're going to be getting the average time spent, right? So we're going to be using average instead of count. Okay, so now the next we want to do is to duplicate these to get the previous days. So let's edit this, getting the previous value, and we're going to be subtracting 1 from month selector, 1 from week selector, 1 from day selector to get the previous values. Okay, so now if I go ahead and put these on test, so we can see the average time spent, or the average number of days spent, was 1 day. So okay, so now we want to get the percent difference, and I said to get the percent difference you just have to create a calculated field. Let's call this our ALOS percent diff. Okay, now what we want to say is if the current ALOS minus the previous one. Okay, I'm about to put this in brackets. divided by the previous ALOS is greater than 0, then go ahead and return this to us. So Ctrl C, paste and end. Okay, so now to get the negative, we just have to duplicate this and edit as well. Okay, so now we can go ahead and drag this in. Now we need our extra values, value 1, value 2. Okay, and we can make these tests. So now this is going to be detail. We can go to average ALOS and edit this, put the okay, we'll make this bold, and now we can go ahead and edit this so that we want it to be a whole number because it's trickery having something like 1.2 days, right? So I'll prefer it to be a whole number so that it's either 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and so forth. Okay, so we're going to be doing same thing for the, let me just go ahead and edit and format this first of all. Sorry, so we'll go to test. I'll go ahead and format this. So value 1 is going to be next to this, and value 2 is going to be next to this. Okay, okay, top, and we'll make this entire view. So now we can go ahead and format these, and we want this to be number custom, and okay, okay, remember this is in percentage, so we're going to be adding our percent. Going to be adding our percent, and let me go ahead and make the negative. So remember, now the next thing we have to do is to ensure this is colored as green, and our negative values are going to be colored red. Okay, so now thinking about it, I think this is supposed to be reversed the case, because we want want our patients to spend lesser amounts of time in the hospital, right, to recovery. So we're going to reverse this and say the lesser times, or the lower amount of times, should be green, and more days should be colored red. Okay, okay, so now the next thing we want to do is to create our bars. Okay, So I can go ahead and duplicate this, and I will just edit this as well. So I'll call these our ALOS bars, and I would replace this with our CTALOS. Okay, now we can go ahead and hide this, and we can also go ahead and edit our tooltip to show ALOS. Okay, so this for average length of stay, and I can also go ahead and edit this or format this so that instead of having our point numbers, we'll have an whole number. So the average time a patient stayed in the hospital. Okay, so we are done with that. The fourth KPI is our surgery complication rate. So we carried out surgeries in the hospital, right? And for some surgeries there are going to be complications, some surgeries are going to go smoothly, so we want to calculate the surgery complication rate. How often did any of the patients come down with a complication after a surgery was performed? So that's what we want to get from our surgery complication rate. Now the next thing we want to do is to get the complication value. Okay, so let's take a look at our data set once more. If we take a look at this data, we would see that we have complication where we have none. So let me just okay, so you could see we have bleeding, cardiac arrest, clot formation, infection, none, and respiratory distress. Okay, so these are the various type of complication. If we take a look at complication type, so you could see we have same thing. So these two columns are technically reflecting same values. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get only rows of data where we have complications. So how do we do that? Let me go ahead and create a calculated feed, and we want to call this our complication. Let's just call this the comp value. Okay, so we'll be saying if complication type equals to, okay, so that's if it's equals to NA, which is none, then we want to count this as 0, else 1. Okay, so sorry, this should be 0. Okay, so this is our calculation, and we'll be creating, we want to create a folder, and we'll be calling this our complication. All right, okay. So remember that this is just to give the various rows of data values. So the next thing we want to do is to count the numbers of complications we have for each month, weeks, or day value. So we'll just go ahead and I will just go ahead and duplicate our CT surgery. So let me go ahead and duplicate these, and I will add this to the complication rate folder. Now I can now go ahead and format or edit this. So we'll call this our CT complication. And now what do we want to return? We want to return comp value. Okay, and also I don't want to count these, I just want to return the values because we'll make use of this calculation. Okay, so that is for that. So now for me to be able to get the rate of complication, what I'll be doing is I'll be creating another calculated feed. And what I want to do now is to, okay, I'll call this, let's call this our complication rate. And what we want to do is we want to get the sum of all complications, and we want to divide it by the count. Okay, so we can go ahead and multiply this by 100 and we'll be getting a percentage. So what technically we are doing is, let me just go ahead and remove this so that I will show you what we did. So if we look at city complication, if I drag this on test, okay, this is the sum. So we have 93 patients or surgeries which were done in a month. We had 93 complications, and if we want to get the total surgeries which were done in that month, if we call our counts, there you can see we did 402 surgeries, and out of that 402 surgeries, 93 had complications. So that's technically what we did. And we want to divide the surgeries that had complication by the total surgeries we did and multiply by 100 to get the rate of complication. So now to get the previous month's complication, all we have to do is I'll go ahead and duplicate this and I will edit this. So now same process, just go ahead and subtract 1. Okay, so when we are done with this, now the next we want to do is to get the complication rate. Just go ahead, duplicate this also, and let's edit this. So this is the previous month complication. So we'll be using the previous value. So okay, so now we can now go ahead and drag these on. We need complication rates. Another thing what we have to do is to get the rate difference, right? So let's go ahead and do that. We'll create a calculated feed. Let's call this the complication difference or percent difference. So it's going to be, so we say if the city if complication rate minus the previous complication rate, remember to put this in brackets, and we are going to be dividing this by the previous complication rate, and we'll say if it is greater than 0, then go ahead and return this. So let's go ahead and copy this, okay, and end. So this is going to take the plus sign. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this. So let's edit, and all we have to do is change this to minus sign, and also we'll change this to if it's lesser than 0. So now we can drag this on our max card. Also remember our value 1 and value 2. So all these are going to be tests. Okay, so now we can just go ahead, edit this, and this is going to be our complication rate, our current complication rate. Ensure this is bold. Okay, so remember that this is already a percentage, so we can just go ahead and format this and add the percent sign. So the next thing we are going to be doing is, let's go to our test and let's go ahead and format this. So our value 1, so since we're looking at complication, we want higher complications to be red. So if there's increased complication, it's supposed to be a warning, like it's supposed to be give us this signal that more surgeries we are doing, we are coming down, patients are coming down with complication, so it should be a red signal, right? Then if it's lesser complication rate, then it's going to be a green signal. So now we can go ahead to let's put this at entire view. Now let's go ahead and edit this properly. So our formatting, this is going to be 1 decimal place, and we are going to be adding the percent sign. Also, okay, so the next thing we'll be looking at is to create, okay, let me go ahead and rename this first. This for our complication rates. Now we want to go ahead and create the complication rates bars. So I'll duplicate this, and now all I have to do now is to change this name, change it to comp bars, and I'll be dragging our current month complication rate value here. Okay, now I can go ahead and format this. So we can just make this a own number and also add our percent sign. So now you can see for 1st of June we have a 70% complication rate, and let's edit the tooltip so that it shows complication rate, not okay. So let me go ahead and hide this indicator. So this is it. We've created our KPIs. Okay, so the next thing we are going to look at is how to create these other charts. So we have 6 different charts. The first one is this, where we have readmission, discharge, and surgeries. So we have our bars that shows us how many surgeries we had for the period of time, and it's giving us a comparison with how many discharge we had and how many readmission cases of readmissions we had as well. So let's go ahead and create this bar chart. So to create that bar, we'll be needing 3 values, which are the numbers of surgery we are going to have, the readmission rate, and the discharge. So we already have one of the values, which is our numbers of surgery, right? So let's go ahead and create those other values. So to get the discharge rate, we have our data, and our data set shows us the discharge, the day a patient was discharged. So we have the date of surgery, and we also have the discharge date. So we'll be using the discharge date to get the number of patients which were discharged in a particular day. So let me go ahead and duplicate this. I'll remove this from folder, and I will create a new folder. And I'll go ahead and call this discharge. So let's go ahead and edit this. So to get the current discharge value, so instead of date of surgery, we'll be changing this to the date of discharge, which is the discharge date. Okay. Okay, so okay, so we are getting an error. So if you take a look at discharge date, this is what save as a test. So let's go ahead and receive this as date. Okay, so now you can see that that error is no longer there. So we've gotten our current month discharge date values, right? So now the next we'll be looking at is readmissions. So let's go ahead and create a calculated fee to get our readmission value. So if you look at our data set, we have a column that specifies if a patient was readmitted as yes or no. So we want to get all the yes values. Is the yes rows of data we are more concentrated on, right? So let's go ahead and create a calculated feed, and we want to call this the readmission value. So we're saying if readmission is equals to yes, then 1, else 0. Okay, so this is going to return only assign 1 to only rows of data where readmission is equals to yes. So let me go ahead and create a folder with this. So we'll call this readmission. I prefer this to be in capital letter. So let's just call this readmissions. So now that we've gotten the value, we want to be able to get not just the value but return values for the specific time period, right? So same thing we are going to do. I will just go ahead and duplicate this and add this to our readmission folder. Now I will go ahead to edit this. I'll call this our current readmissions, and all we have to do is replace this with our readmission value. And instead of count, we are going to be using sum so that I can add all the ones and give us a value. Okay, so this is our readmission current readmission values. So let me go ahead and clear this sheet right now. So what we need to do is we want to drag our dates. So what we need to do now, we'll be dragging our dates to columns, and we'll be adding the current surgeries to rows. Okay, so we have the surgeries for each date, right? So also I want to drag this month's name to tip. Okay, so we can go ahead and edit this. Okay, so for 14th of June we have these are the surgeries. So remember also that we want to add in readmissions and discharge cases, right? So let's go ahead and drag that. So the next thing is our discharge case, so I'll go ahead and drag this as well. So now the next thing I want to do is we'll make this dual axis, and we are going to go ahead and synchronize axis. Okay, so this is going to be bar. Okay, so we have our bars, we have our readmissions, and we have our discharge cases. So let's make the color of our bar, let's make our surgeries to be blue, and we'll go ahead and make our discharge to be green. Okay, readmissions can take brown, or let's use this lighter shade of brown. Okay, so uh okay, let's go ahead and change these. Let's change this as well. Okay, let's change this to red, and probably we can change this to say black. Black should be 000. Okay, okay, so this is much more better. So we can go ahead and uncheck show header, hide this, and we can just format this a bit to remove the borders. So row divider should be none, column divider should be none as well. Okay, so now you see we have our charts where the bars represent the count of surgeries and the line chart represents discharge and readmission case. So let's go ahead and format our tooltip. So for the tooltip, what I'll be doing is I'll be dragging discharge and readmissions to the tooltip as well. Okay, so now we can go ahead and insert this discharge readmissions. So we have surgeries, number of surgeries that were done, the discharge cases we had, and our readmission. So let me just call this surgery. Surgery, discharge, and readmissions. So we can go ahead and make this, give it a lighter shade color. Okay, let's see. So we have on June we have 0 surgery, 1 discharge cases, and no readmissions. So you can see what we got. Let me edit this a bit, give some space. This is much more better. Okay, so this is going to be a bar. Let's just call this a bar slash line chart. So the next chart we are going to be creating is, if you take a look at this, you see I made some charts right up here to show us the number of surgeries we have for that specific time period, the discharge cases and the readmission case also. Okay, so just like a summary value. So let's go ahead and create that. So I'll call this /line chart 2. So we already have our discharge case, our current discharge case. So because we'll be needing the percent difference, we also have to get the previous discharge cases. So let's go ahead and edit this, and all we have to do is I'll go ahead and call this previous, and we'll be removing one from each. So we just want to go a step backward to get the previous value, right? So to get the percent rate difference, we'll create a calculated feed. We'll call this the discharge percent diff, and we'll be saying if the current discharge minus the previous discharge divided by the previous discharge is greater than 0. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Then we want to return that calculation and end. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and duplicate this and edit it also. So this is going to be showing us the negative values. So we'll say if it is lesser than 0. Okay. So I'll be using this to create 3 columns. So these are just fixed values that you can use to creating columns. Okay, so I need 3 columns, and our first column is going to be containing our surgery values. So I'll drag this to test, and all right, the second is going to be containing our readmission values. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead, duplicate this first to create the previous readmission. So we just have to subtract 1. So we can go ahead and create a calculated feed to tell us the percent difference. So we'll call this the readmission percent difference. So we're saying if the current readmission subtracted from the, or if the previous readmission subtracted from the current readmission divided by the previous is greater than 0, then go ahead and return this calculation. Okay, now we can now go ahead and duplicate this, and let's edit. This is going to be for our minus sign, and we are going, instead of greater than 0, we'll be saying less than 0. Okay, so now that we've gotten that, we can pull in readmission into test, the difference. All right. So let's go to the last column of data, which is going to be for our discharge. So let's drag this in. All right. Okay. So um so what I need to do is I will be adding, I want to give this a bit of padding, not technically padding. I want to give it spacing. Okay, so I will just be creating just the way we created these fixed columns. I'll be creating this fixed row of data, and these are going to be um circles. Okay, so for this is going to be blue. Oh, sorry, this is going to be blue. It's just going to be taking the colors which we've assigned to this already. So surgeries are blue, discharge red, readmission black. So surgeries are blue, this is readmission, this is going to be black, and our discharge is going to be red. Okay, so now let's go ahead and edit this. So if we go to the test label, this is going to be surgery. So remember, we're going to color code these. All right, so we can make this quite bold, and that will be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit this more. Let's give this space. So these are in percentages, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. Surgery. Okay. Okay. So in comparison to the previous month, we have a 33.9% increase, right? So let's go ahead and do that for readmissions as well. So let's go to the test label. We'll add readmission. So we can go ahead and format that as well. So for readmission, all right. So we'll be making same corrections on our discharge. So for discharge, okay, so we just have to color code these. Ctrl Z. Okay, so for readmissions, right, the lesser readmission the more better, right? So let's go ahead and change that. So we want lesser values to be green and more values to be red. Okay, so we could also go ahead and format our readmissions. So okay, sorry, discharge. So let's go ahead and do that. Percentage. All right, so we can now go ahead and, you know, hide these and clear this up. So go to format, borders, row divider should be none, column divider should be none as well. All right, so you could see now we have surgeries. So the next thing I want to do now is to clean up the two tip. So I can just go ahead and hide all this. So since the values are seen already, there is no need for tooltip overing around it, right? So this is the number of surgeries, readmissions, and discharge cases we have. So looking at this, I feel it's a bit off. So let me just go ahead and format this once more. Okay, it's much more better. All right. Now the next chart we'll be creating is this chart, which is the average time spent on surgery done. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create that. So now to get the time spent on surgery, what we are going to be doing is to get the difference, because we have, if we look at our data set, we have the time surgery was started and the time surgery ended, right? So let me scroll. So we have the surgery end time and also surgery start time. So we're getting the difference between these two um, time fields. So let's create a calculated column. I will call this surgery hours. Now we'll just go ahead and copy and paste this line of code here. And what it technically does is it subtracts the surgery end time from surgery start time and return the difference in seconds. And to get this in hours, we now have to divide by 3600 seconds to get the hours equivalent. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on OK. And I also want to create a folder with this. Let's call this surgery time spent. Okay, now to get I'll go ahead and duplicate this. We want to get the current surgery time, right? So I'll add this to the surgery hours columns, surgery time spent folder, sorry. Then I'll go ahead and edit this. So what we want to be using is the surgery hours. Okay, so now what we want to do is we'll be dragging our procedure name. So the different procedure, we want to see the average times spent in surgery, right? So we'll drag this to show us the different procedure name. Now we want our surgery, but this is going to be average. So now we can go ahead and arrange this in ascending order. Let's go ahead and remove show header. Okay, and I think it would be much more preferable if I just drag on test. Okay, this is average, and we can edit this here, and let's say all right. So we can remove the tooltip because it won't be needed. Okay, so for appendectomy we spent 3 hours. Hip replacement average of 3 hours was spent. So let me just go ahead and format this, and we'll be using a left alignment. All right, the next chart we'll be creating is this chart, and it's an heat map chart that tells us how many surgery is being scheduled for a month, week, or day. So for the month, this is a monthly calendar, and for each day in the month, it shows us how many surgery was scheduled for that particular day in that month. So let's go ahead and create this heat map calendar. So to create the heat map, would have to first of all get the surgery date. Okay, now to get the surgery date is an easy process. All you have to do is I'll go ahead and duplicate this, and I'll remove this from folder and create another folder with this. So I'll go ahead and call this surgery dates. Now let's go ahead and edit this. So what we are technically saying that we want to return our date of surgery instead of patient's name. We want to return the date of surgery. Same thing, we want to return date of surgery, and we want to return date of surgery. Okay, all right, so now we'll go ahead and drag this to columns, and this is going to be like our weekday. We'll go ahead and drag this to rows as well, and this is going to be week number. So this, we'll be using circle to represent a heat map. Let's hide our null values. Okay, so we have Saturdays and all that. So let's go ahead and drag surgery date once more on test label, and this is going to be day values. Okay, so center, let's increase the size. Okay, reduce the size a bit. All right, so now we can go ahead and hide this. We have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and for each week. So now the next thing we want to do is we'll be coloring this by the number of surgeries we have for these days. So we'll be using our city surgery. I'll be putting this on color. So you could see for Saturdays we had 18 surgeries. For on Sunday 2nd we had 16 surgeries and so forth. Okay, so we can go ahead, let's go ahead, hide this. Let's do a bit of formatting and remove all borders. All right, so now let's clean our tooltip. So for our tooltip, what we want to see is, let's look at the preview. So we want to say we have 7 surgeries on so we have this number of surgery scheduled for the day. Okay, so what I'll do is to format these, and I'll make this a lighter shade color. Alright, so I want to drag this so that it's a bit more compact. Alright, so another thing I want to do is to format this so that we use abbreviations instead. Alright, so let me show you how this works. So if I go ahead and drag in our view mode or show our view mode parameter, and this is currently on month, so if we click on week, so you can see we have these numbers of surgeries for this week. If I click on day, it shows me the number of surgery we have for that particular day. Okay, so that's for our heat map. The next chart we'll be creating is this chart. This is a donut chart that shows us the percentage of surgeries that were done, postponed, rescheduled, and cancelled. Okay, so I'll be showing you how I created that chart. So let's just call these our donut charts. So to create a donut chart, we would have to create 2 fixed columns of data. So let's call this mean 1, all right. So this first one is going to be a pie, and this is going to be a circle. So we can go ahead and do our axis and ensure we synchronize our axis. So for the circle, what we can do is remove measure names from both. Now I can go ahead and reduce, let's make it bigger. Okay, we can't really see now because we have to make this white. Okay, so now you see we've been able to create something that looks like a donut shape object, right? So now what we want to do is, since we are trying to create a donut chart that shows us procedures that were done and all that, let's go to that column. So this is our surgery, and with this we'll be able to get if a surgery was postponed, cancelled, done, or rescheduled, right? So it has colored our donuts based on this. So now the next one to do is to get the angles. How many percent were done, how many percent were cancelled, and all that. So now we'll have to create a calculated field to tell us how many percentages were done for a particular period of time. Okay, so now what I want to do is to create a calculated feed to return the count of surgery scheduled for the current period of time. So let's call this a CT surgery. Oh, to make it much more easier, I'll go ahead and just like we do, duplicate this, remove from folder, and create a new folder for this. So we'll call this surgery schedule. Okay, now we can go ahead and edit this now. So now what we want to return is as surgery schedule. Okay, so we'll be returning the counts of each of these. All right, making that into our angle. So now we can go ahead and make this percentage. All right, I'll just go ahead and do some formatting. You can see. I'll go ahead and remove all two tips as well. So what I want to do is to create a test for this. Okay, so height field labels. Let's drag this out a bit. All right, so let's format this. Shading will be none. And the borders as well. All right. So now what I want to do with this is I want to be able to add a circle where we can color that based on our pie charts over here. Okay, so it's going to add like a legend and also give us information. So what I'll be doing, I'll make this mean 0, mean 1. Okay, so let me make this mean 1. All right, so we'll have to make this another one so that we'll be having 3 columns. So for the first column, this is going to be a circle and it's going to be colored based on surgery schedule. So let's go ahead and drag in surgery schedule on that. Okay, so you see we have the various colors right now. So I'll go ahead and remove this. Then for this, it's going to just be the names. So let me go ahead and drag in surgery schedule on test label. I can go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead and put this out so that we would have the name and the value. So let's go to test label. Let's edit this, and this is going to be surgery schedule. All right, so what we can do is we can make this quite bold. All right, so we can see cancelled is 28%, done is 26%, postponed 24%, reschedule 22%. So what I will do right now is to make these, color this white and remove the borders. Okay, so we can go ahead and hide this. And I want to shift this a bit so that it's closer. So let's go ahead and ensure this is, let's edit hexes. Want this to be fixed. Okay, and let's make this 0.8. all right, so now we can go ahead and remove all lines. Let's format these and remove the borders. Okay, so now you can see now that we have not just only a test chart, but it's also going to be serving as a legend to the pie chart. So where cancelled is blue, we have this, and we have cancelled, done, postponed, and reschedule. So we can go ahead and remove the tooltip from this. All right, so now we have our pie charts that shows us if a surgery was scheduled or not, if it was done, cancelled, postponed, or rescheduled. And we can also go now, if we take a look at this, now we'll go ahead and sort this by the angle. So I want this to be sorted by field, and it's going to be in descending order, and this is going to be CT surgery schedule. So let's say surgery. Okay, so we have from largest to the smallest. So we'll be doing same thing here. So we have 28, 26, 24, 22. So this is already sorted, right? So now let's go ahead and the next we'll be doing is to see the reason why a surgery was rescheduled. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this. So this is going to be the reason chart, the reschedule reason chart. Okay, so now what we want to do is we'll be replacing surgery schedule with cancellation reason. So this tells us why surgery was rescheduled or not. So we have doctor was unavailable, emergency priority, equipment failure, orders, patient unfit. So now what I want to do is, for example, if you take a look at this, you see we have the NA, which is there was no reason, not available. So for these were surgeries that were not reschedule. So I don't want this to, pop up. You can see it's taking a larger aspect of this do not chat. So we'll go to cancellation reason. I will create a calculated feed. So now we'll say if cancellation is equals to NA, then 0, else 1, end. So we just want all cancellation reasons where there is an actual reason, not where it is not available. Okay, so now I will go ahead and create a folder for this. Now the next thing I want to do is just get all cancellation values for the particular period of time. So let's use duplicate CT surgery and we'll add this to our cancellation reason folder. Now I can go ahead and edit this. So let's call this our CT cancellation, and what we want to return is the cancel value, right? So we want to count how many surgeries were cancelled at the particular period of time. So would this have to be some way? We are adding all the ones together to give us a value. So another thing we'll be doing also to get the cancellation reasons, I'll go ahead and duplicate this. Okay, now let's go ahead and edit this. So we'll call this our cancel reason. Just name that, and what we are returning is a cancellation reason. So we will just want to return the cancellation reason for that particular time period. All right. So now we'll be using this as in place of our colors. So we want to color by cancellation reason, and we will be adding our cancel value on angle. Okay, all right. So now you can see that for this particular time period we have doctors unavailable, emergency priority, equipment failure, orders, and patient unfit as the major reason for a surgery being cancelled. So let's go ahead and sort this. So we'll be sorting by our cancellation. We want this to be in descending order, so from the highest reason to the least reason, and we want to sort by our current cancellation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create charts for our cancellation reason, just like what we did for the pie chart. So we'll say main 1. We want to create 2 fixed columns, right? And we'll go ahead and drag our cancellation reason to the rows. Okay, so we have doctor unavailable, emergency priority, orders, and unfit. So remember, this is I'm going to be using circle for this so that we can color this by and for this is going to contain our test, so we'll be dragging cancellation value to label. Will be getting the percent of total from that. Okay. And now let's just quickly go ahead and format this. All right, so we are done with this, and we can now go to the tooltip and as well just uncheck the show tooltip. So the last chart we'll be creating is the outcomes of surgery. So let's go ahead and create that. Surgery outcomes. So we'll have to create a calculated feed for this as well to get the current surgery outcome. So I'll duplicate this and I'll remove this from folder and create another folder for this. So this is going to be our surgery outcome. And let's go ahead and edit this. So now what we are going to be returning is the surgery outcome. All right. So okay. So let's go ahead and drag this here. And this should be a discrete value. Okay, so we have 7.9% disease and hair recovered. So we are not really focused on this not available because these are for surgeries that were not yet done or that are not yet done. Okay, so I will just go ahead and hide this. I won't use exclude because if I use exclude, it's going to change our percentages to tell us that 30% of surgeries done were disease, and this is not actually giving us a correct representation of our data, right? So if I go back, we can see that just only 7% of surgeries which were performed on this particular day and died. 74% the surgery went well, 10% are recovering fine, and 7.4% are in the ICU. So what I want to just do is go ahead and you know hide this. Okay, so we're still going to be retaining our values. Next thing I want to do as well is drag CT surgery to columns. We want to be able to create a bar chart with this. This is going to be we are counting our values as well, and you can see now we have our bars. And what we want to be able to do is we'll go ahead and format this so we have 7.9% instead of just those long values we are getting currently. Okay, let's go ahead and all right. Okay, so with this done, let's drag this a bit so that we're more closer. We'll be using the entire view. We can go ahead and hide feed labels. We can also go ahead and uncheck that, and now we can call on format and remove all row dividers and column dividers. Okay, so now we are done with that. We can see diseased 8.0%, recovered 10.4%, transferred to ICU 7.5%, and I can as well go ahead and uncheck our tooltip. So now we have all our charts which we'll be using as for creating our dashboard. So let's call this surgery outcome. So now the next thing I want to show you is how I go ahead to create this background image you see that I'm using here, our wireframe object. So I'll go ahead and call this rounded box. So there's two ways you can go ahead to do this. You can either create that on Figma and load this as a background image on your dashboard sheet, or you can create a calculated feed. Let me create a calculated feed. I call this rounded box. This is not going to hold any, just you can just go ahead and do this, and we'll be dragging this to our test. Okay, so now go ahead and click on this and area. All right, this should be on entire view. So we have our rounded box currently created. So I can now go ahead and um, create more rounded objects on this. So I'll click on area. So you can see now we've created another rounded box. So for the image we're trying to create, we'll have four bosses, three, and one sidebar. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be our sidebar. So these are I go about creating my background image. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and go to dashboard. So the first thing I love doing is to delete this phone layout and go to fix size, custom, and let's use 12 by 800. All right, so I can make this 1 1. Okay, so when I'm done with that, the first thing I'll be doing is to make this floating and drag in a vertical container on this. Go to layouts, x and y axis should both be 0, the width should be 1 1, height should be 800. I can make this tiled and go ahead and drag our rounded box on this and remove title. Okay, so for our rounded box, remember that our rounded box is also a sheet. So let me format this. I just want this to be none. um this is going to be, we can go ahead and start formatting this is going to be rounded. So this is how I go about getting my rounded borders. So this is going to be rounded. I want this to be all white, so let's take a look. Okay, I want this to be black. All right, so one thing we can do is, if I go to a vertical container, I can as well make the background color to be black. Okay, now on our sheet, on our rounded box sheets, I can format this shading and let's go ahead and make this white. So now let's go ahead and do some editing or formatting as you call it. So want some spacing to be here. All right, so one thing I used to do, if you click on G on your keyboard, it's going to give you this grid layout where you can use in arranging your objects perfectly. So I'll be using that. right, so the next thing I'll be doing is to arrange this as well. So you can see I'm giving one box spacing in between, okay, so that is the spacing is uniform for all our charts. It's going to be our calendar map. So this is a bit bigger because it's going to be containing I guess two charts, and now can go ahead and correct this as well. Okay, so now you can see that we are done creating the wireframe for our dashboard. So I'll go ahead and uncheck that. Okay, so now what I'll go ahead and do is to start dragging our sheets into our dashboard. Well, before I'll go ahead and do that, I'll first of all drag in a vertical container. So this is going to be holding all our KPIs. Okay, now I'll go back to tiled, dragging a blank on this. Now I'll be putting in 4 horizontals. Okay, now that I'm done with that, I can now go ahead and delete our blank. So I can go ahead and edit this a bit. Okay, now the next thing I'll do now is dragging in a blank here. I'll be needing, so we'll ensure this is having the height of about 20. Let's make this 30. Alright, so I'll go ahead and remove this blank. Now I want another blank to be here because I want to share this into 2 horizontal containers. Okay, can go ahead and delete this. Alright, so now what we want to do, starting from our first KPI, this is going to be our surgery value, so let's drag that here. Oh, let me go. And now what I will just go ahead and do is to click on these fee parameter values and just go ahead and float them. I'll drag our surgery bars here. Ensure our title is not showing. Go ahead and hide feed labels. Now I'll make sure I format this so that the sheets have no shading. Oh, let's give this an inner padding of 5, right? So now for this, I can go ahead and drag the text and call this surgeries. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and arrange the other KPIs so that we'll be fast about this. And now go ahead and drag the title for this. It's going to be ALOS for average length of stay. Make it bold. Okay. Ensure this height is 30. I want to format this and ensure the shading is none. So what I want to do is I want to add the days value here so that I'll be able to format this to be 10. All right. Okay. So this is what we got. So what I want to do is I want to make sure these have fixed. Okay. So now does the last one, and I'll be applying same technique on this as well. I'll go to this sheet and ensure our text is centered. Alright. Now what I want to do is I want to edit the weights, and let's say we are using 198. This, let's try 196. All right, so currently this is how our sheet looks like. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be placing in our chart on this. So what I need is I'll go ahead and float a vertical container on this. Okay, pull in a blank, and I want to divide this into two vertical containers. Now I can go ahead and just remove this blank. Alright, so for these individual containers, I can now go ahead and drag in a blank and divide this into 3 horizontal containers. Okay, let's delete this. So 1, 2. All right. So for this content now, what I want to do is I'll go to my rounded boss, and I think this should be it. I want this to be formatted as a black color. All right. So let's go back to our dashboard. So you see this is black. This is what is going to be holding her heat map. So let's just go ahead and drag our heat map there. Tab view. Then let's see if we can drag. Okay, I can just cut this. So this is going to be in white color. So Okay. So I want to make this 240. All right. So this is our heat map, and it shows us the number of surgery we had for each day. Okay. So this is going to be our next chart, and before that I want to go in, put in a blank between these, edit this to be 20. All right, now let's go in. So we're going to be dragging, let's take a look at our chart, the average time spent on surgery done, right? So this is it, time spent on surgery. We can drag that in, and to format this, ensure shading is none. Now I will be dragging in a test. Time spent on surgery. Okay, so we can call this average time spent on surgery. Alright, for this I will have to hide this title, make sure this is fit the entire view. Give it a padding of 5. I want to put in a blank first. Okay, 20. To 12. Okay, let's see what we had here. Oh, okay, this should be like 312. So let me go ahead and okay. All right. Now the next thing I'll be doing is, now for this we'll be needing two spaces, to want to hold these our values and the other one to hold our chart, right? So that's what we'll be doing. So I'll drag in a blank space here, and I'll divide this into 2 vertical containers. So let's edit this height to be about 80. So all right, so I'll drag our bar line here, ensure title is removed, and our bar line text here, also ensure title is removed. Now I can go ahead and format this. None, shading is none. All right, if we go to layouts, I can give these 5. Let's just go ahead and add a blank to this, because I want to try and give this. Now we'll be using same process to add in the charts for these other 3 charts left at the bottom. So the surgery schedule, reason for surgery schedule, and outcome of surgery. So let's go ahead and do that. So now what is technically left is our buttons, our filter buttons, and our side panel. Okay, so I could just be showing you how you can quickly go ahead to do that. So for the side panel, I'll drag in a vertical container on this. All right. Now for this, you can now go ahead and just fill in this with words you want to see. So let's drag a blank on this first of all. So I can just give this a name. Let's call this Cedar Crest Hospital. I'll make this bold. I'll make the color blue. I can give this 10, and let's say it looks like okay. Let's center this and let's make this 12. Okay, so this is Cedar Crest. All right, I can go ahead and put in a logo, an hospital logo design like this. So this is an image, so I can just go ahead and drag that there. Let's see. Okay, I'll go ahead and use this image and let's see how it looks like. Let me edit the height, make this 100. Let's make this 50. Okay, so you can see how it looks like. So this is just a reference. When you are creating yours, you can use something else for this. Okay, so let's just leave it as that. I'll drag in another blank. All right, now I'll go ahead and drag in a text on this. So this is going to be like our overview page. So let me call this overview. Bold. black 10 centered. Okay, so if I want to put in an icon, I can go ahead and add an icon to the side and so forth. So for now, I'll go ahead and just leave it as this overview. Now, in a situation where we are going to be adding our other dashboard, for example, if we're taking a look at this, you could see we have other page we can navigate to. Now you can go ahead and use this navigation icon. Okay, so I'll be dragging that here. So currently we have no page to navigate to, but let me just go ahead and edit this button and say we want to navigate to our current dashboard, which is dashboard 1. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and give this title and say patient for now, and make this use area. This should be 10. Background should be none. Apply. Okay, so that should be that. So let's go ahead and put this. Yeah. Oh, all right, so this is what we want to see. So when we create our patient page, we can now go ahead and click on this and it will take us to our patient's page. So let me go ahead and add another navigation button to this, and as well edit this button. So we'll be navigating to dashboard 1 as well. Let's give this doctor's page. This is going to be area, board 10, background should be none, and that's that. Okay, so you can see now we have created our pages we'll be navigating to. So any other page you want to navigate to, you can add that as well. So for this page, same technique. This time around, what I'll be doing, I'll just be adding I'll go ahead and float a vertical container on this. Now I'll be adding a blank. So what I want to add on this page is a download or export icon. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, you can see the download. So let's put in download. Let's go ahead and edit this button. Want to download our PDF, we'll be using image, so let's choose our images. So I'll go ahead and look for okay, yes, let's make use of this. None, apply. So now aside from that, I also want to put in another. I can go ahead and edit this. And I want the padding to be 8 to make it okay. Let's do 10. Let's do 15. Yes, I want to make it a bit smaller. Okay, I can also go ahead and add a an icon to this, so that whenever the person clicks on this, it takes them to my Tableau profile. Okay, okay, so let me choose I'll just go ahead and use this icon for using sake. I'll fit center, then the URL I want to get opened, I'll just go ahead and copy this. This is not my URL to my public, this is just the URL to this page, but I'll go ahead and use that. I'll paste this here and I'll click on OK. Okay, so now I can go ahead and delete this. Now let's go ahead and edit this so that we have, all right, it's too small, it's 10. All right, so anytime an individual click on this, it takes them to my URL. I don't want to click on that currently, so okay, let me just do that for, so you see it loads, but currently I'm not online, so that's why it's not loading. So that's that. We have the PDF, we have this link to URL page, and what's all that thing. I'll be showing you how to create these buttons. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go to a new sheet, and so I'll be creating 3 columns, fixed columns. So I mean 0, now I can go ahead and duplicate this, edit. This is going to be our weak button. Duplicate and edit this. Oh sorry, there's going to be day. So all these are going to be shape. So for you to do this, you have to have, I'll be using one of the shape which is already loaded on my computer system, so you can see a video on how to add shapes to your computer, to your Tableau. Okay, so I want this to be entire view. Let's increase the size. Now we can go ahead and remove these borders. Remove tooltip. Okay, so now we have this ready. So what we want to do now is to drag our view mode on color. Okay, now we'll be equating this to our month button which we've created. Okay, center. Now we can go ahead and edit this to months. All right. Next thing is same process for this as well. So drag view modes to color. This is going to be equals to weak button, and now we are going to drag the weak button to test. Now for the last one, same thing, drag view modes to color. It should be equals to day, and drag our day button to label. All right. Now what we want to do is color this. So we want true to be black. Let's make this black. So when it's okay, let's make all four C's to have a lighter blue shade. Okay, now what I want to do is I'll go ahead and show this parameter so that we can switch this from month to week. So now you can see it's currently on week, so week is true. Let's make this black. So I want to color this white. Let's change the font color to white. Alright, so now we're going to change all fours to this shade of blue. Alright, now what I want to do as well is to make this bold. Now the next last is for D. Alright, so you could see we have our button set, but it's not yet fully functional. What we are going to do is let's call this our button. Alright, and we're just going to drag this on our dashboard. Move title, format the shading and make this none. I can go ahead and delete this now. Okay, so now we have our button sheets. So you can see currently we are still using our view mode to control our button sheet, right? So now what we need to do is to go to the worksheets or the dashboard and edit this. So I'll go to dashboard, actions, add actions, change parameter, and I'll say we are making use of Control Shift to help in clicking all. So we can go ahead and unclick these, and all we need is our button sheet. Our target parameter is the view mode, and source feed is going to be month button for the first one. So on select, want to keep current value, and this is going to be our month. Let's call this month btn. Okay, so we're going to be doing the same thing, add another action, change parameter, we call this week button. Click on this, go to the last value, Control Shift and uncheck this. Then let's look for our button. Yes, go to target parameter, view mode. Source field is going to be week button, and we can click OK. So add another action, change parameter. Let's call this our day btn. Same process, click this, Control Shift, uncheck. Let's look for our button sheet. Our target parameter is view mode. Our source feed is going to be day button, and alright. So now let's check if it works. So we've clicked on week and you can see it works. Now if we click on day, you can see it goes to day. If we click on month, it goes to month. So another thing I want to do is to prevent this from alighting. So I'll go to this, I'll create a de-highlight. So let's say create a calculated feed. Let's call this de-highlight. I'll drag in test on this. This could be just any tests. Save this as highlights. I want to drag this to our extra so that it gives me track of everything I have created. So now on all, I'll drag this to detail. Okay, now let's go back to our dashboard. Let's go to dashboard, actions. Okay, we're going to go to highlights. All right, so let's click on this as usual, uncheck this, and button. Our target sheet is, let's go and check this. So all right, now let's try it again. So if we click on week now, you could see that it's not highlighting all these. Now let's click on month. So you see we have to make sure that we are not clicking any extra sheets. So all we just need is our button sheets. Okay. All right. So now let's click on mouse once more. All right, so this is what we want to. We've created this sheet. So now I can go ahead and delete this. So another thing we are going to be doing is remember that for each month we're able to pick the month, the week and the day. So I want those filter dragged in right now. So our month selector, I'll go ahead and float this. So this is going to be under months, and I will hide the title. So I want it like this so that you can go ahead and pick your month. So let me go ahead, same thing, our week. So let's go ahead and float this. Same process, hide title. Day. All right. This is actually one of the disadvantages with using sheets. Anytime you click on it, it highlights, and I think that's why I hate using sheets. But the thing is that when you load this to public, it doesn't actually highlight anyway. It's just when it's on this place, that's when it does that. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you now is I want a situation where these other parameters only choose when it's being called on. So I want a situation where it's only when I click on month I get this. So those for week and days are going to hide until I request to view them. So let me show you how I'll go ahead to do that. We're going to be creating some calculated feed. Okay. I'll go ahead and duplicate this, and I'll say let's call this show day. Okay, now I can go ahead and duplicate this. It's going to be show month. Show week. All right, so now you can see that it's a true or false value. Okay, so now let's go back to our dashboard, and I'll click on this. So for our show month, this is going to, the parameter has to be floating. So let's go to control visibility. I'll be controlling visibility using our show month value. All right, now same thing, let's go to this, control visibility, I will be controlling our visibility using our show week value. So you see it has disappeared because our parameter is currently on month. So I'll click on this, control visibility. We'll be controlling our visibility using the show day value. So now if I click on week, and that for the value, the parameter for month disappears and it shows us that for week. Now I can go ahead and click on this filter and say, oh, I want to take this to week 23, and all our changes takes place to week 23. Okay, so same thing, if I click on day, it's going to give us daily value. I can go ahead and click on this and pick any day of the month which I would love to see my dashboard for. Okay, so now I can go to months and I can filter this and I can pick any month of my choice. Alright, so this is how I went about creating this dashboard. So you can put in other designs. You can change the background color to your choice. You can add an image, for example a search image. So for example, I can go ahead and float an image icon here, choose the image is already downloaded on your computer system, right? So I can just go ahead and pick any image of my choice. Let's see. Okay, can go ahead and make use of this, open this. All right, so you can see, so I can just put any image of my choice just to decorate my dashboard a bit and make it have more make the UI look much more beautiful. Okay, all right, so you can go ahead and do this, just add anything just to decorate your dashboard and all that. So I'll be leaving that for you to do. And you can see, for example, if I click to week, you would see that I also have some work to do. So for example, we have Sunday, Monday. You can go ahead and edit this so that instead of it using its full word, you can use an abbreviated value. All right, so for example, we can use the edit alias and say, yeah, SUN for Sunday, for Monday as well. You can use the edit alias and call this MON. Just go ahead and remove the day at the back of each word. All right, so let's go back to our dashboard. All right, so you can see it's still a bit clumsy. You can go ahead and use just the first word, or you can even go ahead and hide this in general. So it doesn't really matter because when you're hovering on this, it tells you. Okay, so let's just go ahead and unclick on show header. All right, okay, because once you're hovering on this, it tells you if it is Monday, Tuesday, and so forth. So you can go ahead and edit that for your dashboard. So other things you have to do, you can change give this a padding of, let's increase our bottom padding to 10. All right, to give it more space down. And for this as well, okay, we can leave this as this, or let's go ahead and rotate this, okay, so that it's this way, Sunday, Monday. So you can go ahead and do other formatting to this. Okay, so let me go ahead and try and format this so that we can get all our values seen. Fixed value, so you can fix at 0.5. okay, so for this as well, the fixed value is 1. okay, so if you do that, it's going to work. So same thing for this as well, 0.31. okay, so that's for that. You can go ahead and create this dashboard, format it to your choice. Go ahead and create it, and you can post it on LinkedIn, and do well to tag me on LinkedIn when you recreate this. You can change the colors, format to your choice, change the design, the style, and all that. I'll be dropping the data set on the video description section so that whoever is interested can go along and download the data set as well. Also, I'll be uploading this to Tableau workbook, or I'll be adding the link to this Tableau workbook, the one which I initially created, on the description section as well, so that you can go ahead and download this workbook and try and also recreate it if you want to do that. Okay, so for the other dashboard sheets like patients and doctors, if you want me to go ahead and create that, then do well to like this video, share this video to anybody you know will be interested in creating dashboard, healthcare dashboard especially, because it took me a whole lot of hours trying to create this again. Okay, so I would need you to motivate me. So if you want me to go ahead and create this full dashboard for patients and doctors, then the number of likes and comments I get on this video is going to determine that. Okay, bye guys, see you in my next video.